So this is part 21 of the ongoing AS and A-Level Java series, and in this episode we are going to be looking at method parameters. So you might recall that in the previous tutorial we did look at methods, and we saw that methods are a very useful way for us to package certain expressions or certain lines of code under one name, and we can always make reference to that particular to that set of lines of code or expressions by making use of the method name. So you recall that we declared a method called greeting, and within the greeting we actually had one statement which was simply printing the message hello, rather welcome dear user, onto the screen. So now we want to make use of, we want to look at rather a method that takes parameters, because I'm sure you might have realized that that particular method that we declared in the previous example is not really useful, because it's only doing one static thing, or it's just doing one thing in particular, and that's just declaring or rather that's basically running it's basically displaying a message which says welcome dear user. So method parameters allow us to basically generalize a method so that we can use it in various situations. So let's actually declare the same method called greeting. Greeting right here. But instead of coming here and saying system.out, then we pass in a string literal, what we are going to do is we are simply coming down here, and we are going to print a message. And this message right here, we have to declare it within the parentheses of the method header right there on line 8. So the message is of type string, so we specify the type, which is string, and we specify the identifier, which is message. And whenever this particular method is going to be called, it has this parameter. So a parameter is basically, think of it as a placeholder for whatever is going to be put in during our method invocation. So during method invocation, right, when we want to invoke the greeting method right here, we are now going to have to pass something that's called an argument. So an argument is the actual value, whereas a parameter is sort of just like a placeholder or a specification for the type and identifier that a particular method expects. So you already see that I'm getting this red squiggly line underneath my function or my method invocation because I haven't specified an argument. So I can now specify an argument and say hello there, right? And I'm going to save that and run the code. So as you'd expect, we are going to get the words hello there printed within the console, down there in the console right there. Then I can also make use of the same method. This time around I can pass a different argument. So maybe I can say this is an awesome program, right? And I terminate, then I run. You realize that this time around I get the words hello there, then it's also going to write this phrase which says this is an awesome program. So as you can see, parameters, they allow us to make methods generalized, or to generalize methods. So the same method can be used in different situations by passing a different argument each time around you call that method. So that is very useful, and actually that's what the printline method in Java does. Printline is a method that takes a variable length string, so you can just print out just one character, you can print out two words like in this case, or you can print out an entire statement like that, is it? And we're just making use of the system.out.println method, which is built into Java. So we can actually define our own methods that can do pretty much the same thing as it were. So I think that's just about it for methods, method parameters. All right, maybe one more thing that I should demonstrate. Maybe let's actually declare another method. So this one returns a void, but we can actually declare a method that returns an actual value, is it? So let's declare a number, a method that returns a double, and what this method is going to do, it's going to return a square of value, right? So we want to return num times num1 times num1, and here in the parameter declaration or the parameter definition, we want to specify a double called num1, is it? So the name of our method is called square value, and the return type is double. So now for methods that return values, you actually have to make use of the return keyword within the somewhere within the body of the main method, and typically the return statement is going to be the last statement that you write within the method body, like that. So when we come back here and we say square value, we are going to pass, maybe let's pass 45, and then go ahead and actually we need to system.out.println. so maybe what I can do is I can remove this, then say system.out.println, then out of within the println method I then call the square value method, and I pass 45 as an argument to the square value method. Then when I go ahead and run that code, I should get the square of 45, which is 2025. Is it? Notice how it is a double there. So what this does is that it's going to, when you invoke it, it's going to expect that you give it something that's going to fill in that parameter value there. So we put the value of 45 there. So in other words, the value of num1 is 45. Then it's going to return num1 times num1, which is basically the square value of the number. Alternatively, you can make use of the POW, right? You can actually call another method on the return statement. So maybe we can make use of math.pow, right? Then it's going to be num1, and the other value we want to raise it is to the power of 2. So if we do that, we will still get the same output right there. So as you can see, the return statement, it doesn't just necessarily return, you can actually call another method right there on the return statement. You just don't have to evaluate an expression, an arithmetic expression, but you can actually call another method on the return value there. Then another thing that we can also do is we can actually create, you can have several parameters defined within the method header, just like that, and we can have an integer called num2, right? And right here I'm going to pass num2 as an argument to the pow method. Then when I call the square value, I now put 2, right, which is an integer. Then when I go ahead and run this code, you realize that still the output is still the same, is it? So that's how you can go about creating methods that return values, and you can also create methods that do not return values, but you just have to specify that the return type is void. But if it's a return, if it's supposed to return something, you have to specify the type there. Then it's also important to notice that you can return doubles, you can return integers, you can return strings, you can even return other objects as well, is it? So there's really no limit to the return type for a particular method. A method can return anything, just as long as you don't forget to include the return keyword. But otherwise your IDE is going to tell you, or even the compiler itself is not going to compile your code if you have any mistakes going on within the method body. So I think that's just about it for this tutorial. I'll see you in the next one.